Welcome to the podcast, Raising Unstoppable Teens. I'm Dr. Kimberly, host for this episode, and my guest today is Kari Kelley. So let's welcome Kari Kelley to the show. Yay!
Hello there. Thank you so much for having me here.
I'm so excited that you are here because you are remarkable and your story is remarkable and your mission is remarkable.
Thank you.
So, yes. So I'm going to read your bio so that listeners get a taste of you, and then we'll jump in with the questions. Kari is the author of Black, Blind, and Female, and a contributing author to the best-selling ebook, Village Pearls, Spiritual Practices to Uplift Your Soul, and the #1 Amazon bestseller, Heal Thyself. She is also the creator, producer, and performer of her one-woman shows, Somebody Else's Child, 3 Chairs, and From Garbage to Gold. Kari has presented to and entertained audiences and VIPs at sold-out events all around Northern California. She is the subject and the star of the documentary Gifted Messenger. Kari was a featured speaker for Sexual Assault Awareness Month at Santa Clara University. Wow, a lot of accomplishments there. And again, Gifted Messenger, I love that. And I can't wait to hear more. But to begin with, what were your teen years like for you, Kari?
Well, okay, so if we're going to say teen years, I would start at 13. And the summer of my 13th birthday, my mom passed away. Now, the thing about having her pass away when I was 13, she had a stroke when I was 10 years old that left her paralyzed on her right side and in a wheelchair. So at 10 years old, I became a caregiver for her. And she would end up in and out of the hospital. And I would go stay with other relatives when she went in the hospital. So when I was 13 and she went in the hospital, it was the normal routine for me to go and stay with other relatives. But then when she passed away, she never came home from the hospital. And I never really, I did end up going back to my home, but not right away. So my teen years were full of me adjusting to living with new family and starting high school, and I was a mess. I was a mess as a teenager. I felt very unstable and unsettled. The mom that passed away when I was 13 was my adoptive mother. And her and her husband, my parents, were the second family that I was adopted into. The first family I was adopted into, I was only 9 months old, and I ended up being taken from that family because of child abuse in that family. I lost some of my eyesight from that first adoption because the mother shook me. And while she was shaking me, she smacked my head so hard that fluid built up on my brain. And I didn't get medical attention for 10 days. But when I finally got into the hospital and started to get the medical attention that I needed, I lost some of my eyesight. So now my running joke about the eyesight is that I have enough eyesight to get in trouble, but not enough to get a driver's license. And I have a whole speech about how I can convince the DMV that I deserve a driver's license because my one good eye is just as good as the one good eye people are actually using when they drive, because you have seen what people drive like, right?
Hard to argue you with that. Good.
Okay. So I was taken from that first family. I went back into foster care, and then I got adopted by a new family when I was 4. And this is the family that I grew up in.
Mhm.
And so it was also an abusive home. My mother was not very nice to me. She was cruel, actually. And I dealt with sexual abuse in the family as well. I dealt with emotional and verbal and physical abuse as well.
Wow.
And so, uh, going through my teen years, dealing with that, bouncing from the house I was living in when my mom went to the hospital, that was a family with 5 siblings, and I was the adopted one. I mean, I was adopted into the family, and they were, birth siblings, and I'm living with this new family. They're my cousins, but I'm still adopted into the family.
Mhm.
And I'm never allowed to forget that. You hear stories about some families that, even though the child is adopted, they never felt adopted. Well, I
Right.
always felt adopted.
Mm.
Um, so by the time I was going through high school, I ended up having to spend 5 years in high school instead of the normal 4, because I spent so much time cutting school and not showing up and just dealing with, actually, more like not dealing with my life. I spent more time in bed,
Mm.
just not wanting to deal with anything. So, but I wanted an actual high school diploma. So instead of going to the continuation school when I knew during my normal senior year that I knew I wasn't going to graduate on time, I just said, no, I will just come back to this school and finish and, spend 5 years instead of 4.
Wow. Can I ask you two questions
Sure.
that are coming up for me? Uh, First of all, that's your story is amazing because we'll get more into it. I mean, the resilience that you have, and even hearing you, I wanted to, graduate high school, and so, I went back, and I'm going to finish high school even if it took me 5 years instead of 4. Right there, that to me uh, is a lot of strength to do that, because it would be so much easier to not finish the school. And also even feeling depressed and given your circumstances, and high school is a big deal. I mean, teen years are tough anyway. I mean, it just floors me, your strength, really. But I guess one of the questions I have is, did you feel like you could go to any of your teachers, or did you feel like you had any other support, or was it more just that this was the home that you were living in and this is what you kind of went through? And I mean, how did that play out? Did you have any kind of ally, I guess, outside of your home?
Not really. I didn't really, well, okay, there were people that, okay, let me see, how do I say this? Oh, let me start with, okay, I'm 50 now. So all of this stuff was happening during the 70s and 80s. And so child child abuse awareness and all that back then, I sound really old, way back in the old days. So they were different then. And my ideas of what I was dealing with, um, I didn't feel like it was something to talk to people about.
Okay.
So looking for some support or some kind of way to get out of it, um, just I didn't feel like it was really on my radar because, well, two things. first of all, my mother was able to yell and scream and just treat me mistreat me in front of other people. So like, it wasn't always behind closed doors that she was
Mhm.
being mean and cruel. And then there was a point where I was dealing with some sexual abuse, and she actually called other people and told them what was going on, and nobody did anything.
Wow.
So it trying to find, like some place, like go tell a teacher that something's going on and something, it didn't feel like, it did not feel like to me there was anywhere to go with it, because who would care? That was the
Wow.
biggest piece. It was like, it felt like nobody would care if I did go. Um, and once I got grown enough to ask other adults around me, why didn't you uh, say something or do something? I got a lot of hand wringing, foot shifting, excuse making, where people, well, we didn't know who to call or what to do. And then there were some people that said, well, yeah, we thought something might be going on. It didn't feel quite right. You were kind of, different. As we look at things nowadays, you can see the signs, and that I was exhibiting, like that slouchiness and just head down all the time, just things that to look for now, that people didn't connect with abuse victims.
Mhm. Point that you made, because in the 70s and earlier, just the awareness wasn't the same as it is now.
I feel like there is enough education out there if people will take advantage of it, but, well, maybe it's not a but, it's more like an and.
Okay.
And there needs to be some kind of support for the person who is reporting the abuse.
Ah,
And I say that because one reason why things don't get reported is because of the backlash to the person who's reporting. And that can put the kibosh on anybody wanting to say something or stand up and try to help someone,
mhm,
especially when it comes to like a family dynamic, when
mhm.
there's family dynamics involved,
Right.
because it can turn into this big family thing. Um, so people are more reluctant to come by, and it can happen in schools too, where like a teacher might know something, but because of situations in the school, they don't want the publicity, they don't want the stain on the school's reputation, they don't want this particular coach. Like I think about the whole gymnastics thing. As long as there were champions going off to the Olympics and the teams and everything, that coach was able to get away with things because nobody wanted to mess up the record. They didn't want to, cause all the champions not to be able to train with this top-notch coach. And there's like all these dynamics that will cause someone not to report, not to get involved because they don't have the support. So if there was a way to provide the support around the person reporting, as well as the person who needs um, services around being abused,
Mhm.
that would that would make me a one happy girl.
Okay. And so that's yeah, and you are all about advocating, and because of your story and your experiences, uh, you are somebody who really knows what could be helpful and what kind of support would be helpful when somebody comes forward, because that takes a lot of courage, because there's
It does. It does. And sometimes you have to, your courage has to be the thing that you hold on to, because like when you know that if you talk about, favorite uncle, that everybody in the family is going to turn on you. But if that's your child, then you have to be ready to decide that having your place in the family is not as important as keeping your child safe. And that is not an easy decision for anybody to make.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so there really, I wish there was, more support for the person who uh, has to make that decision to keep the child safe.
Right, right. Yeah. So that's one of the things you're hoping to change. So yeah. And then my other question too is, as a teenager, and we'll kind of get into this a little bit. I have another question specifically on this, but for right now, with that teenager that was withdrawn and the head down and slumped over, and what do you wish a teacher or somebody, what did you need right then? Going back in time, what would you have hoped that somebody would say to you, or notice, or is there one thing that would have been a little
Well,
bit helpful to you?
I can tell you that what I do remember and what I did get as a teenager, there were little things that people who they didn't really know that they were helping at the time. For example, there was times when you go in the store and you go through the checkout line and the cashier or the bagger would say, "Oh, have a wonderful day. Thanks for shopping with us," right? And just because their voice was so happy and upbeat, it made me want to smile. It gave me something to hold on to, right? Um, and like I had one teacher when, 13, 14. I had special teachers because of my eyesight. I had to have special services in school where I had special teachers come in and help me do classwork. And so, like, we would go through different things. And if I get right answers, she would say things like, "Oh, you're so smart. Oh, what a clever child." I mean, so there were little things during those times when I was, dealing with all that, that one person, one little action, one little positive note would make a difference for me. I didn't realize it at the time, but when I look back at it, I remember that that was those were little things to hold on to.
That's huge, Carrie, because you know we hear about, like, I just noticed a post the other day. For example, if you see a friend sitting alone, pre-COVID, of course, alone at the lunch table or in the cafeteria, go sit by them, or, introduce yourself. Or if in other words, reach out and be that person. And it's so powerful to hear how powerful that really is. That just a small gesture like that, where you're acknowledging somebody, where you're just, really the message is just of caring. Or
Right.
even I loved what you said about that bright tone and the enthusiasm. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for shopping with us.
Right.
Just with something that you could hold on to, that was a little bit, hopeful and more positive than where you were feeling and stuff. And just, I think that if there's one thing, I mean, I don't know, for me, I really want to embody what you just said, because it's so simple to just acknowledge someone, or to just reach out and to be kind, and the power in that. And we sometimes just really underestimate that. And so I really want to take that home, that that what I'm hearing from you is it's very powerful, and it can definitely have an impact.
Definitely.
Kind of helped you, because that's the other thing. You didn't give up. Like what helped you not give up? I mean, here you are, a teenager, and you've gone through these experiences, um and not just once, but repeatedly, and adoptive families and so forth. I mean, you've kind of have gotten a dose that many of us don't, have all of that. And yet you are so resilient and such an inspiration and such a bright light. How? I mean,
All I can say is that it's the story that I share with my show, Garbage to Golden. It's the only way I know how to put that into words. There was this spark that it's like the pin light, that's the only little light surrounded in a sea of darkness, right? That pin light is what I would call that resilience that just would not give up, go anywhere, that light would not go out no matter how dark my life seemed to be. And I don't have anything except for what was placed in me at my creation, that kept me going like that. Because I'm not going to say there weren't days when I wanted to give up. And, I kind of basically, there were times I threw up my hands and gave up. I would get it home on Friday afternoon, and climb in bed and never get back out of the bed until Monday morning was time to go do something else. I mean, I'm not going to say that there weren't days when I didn't give up, but that light just refused to go out. It just refused to go out. It's like one of those trick candles, you blow it out, it lights right back up, right? So that's all I can say that was there. There was always something to hold on to. The other thing is music. Singing came to me very early. I grew up in Pentecostal church, and I thought everybody could sing. So when I started basically imitating the voices that I was already hearing, and once I got all that attention at 8 years old with this big voice in this little girl, it helped. It really helped. That was the one thing that I could do, and everybody loved me. If I start singing, everybody loved me. I wasn't this ugly, stupid, half-blind child, good for nothing, as long as I was singing. And so that's the other thing that helped. That was inside me that didn't just really completely give up.
Yeah.
I just know that it was there, and I'm still here, and that's that's about it.
Yeah. And that you have a gift, I mean, you have many gifts, but just with the singing and stuff, and that was, through your singing, that was loved, and that's where you got a lot of the praise and acknowledgement, and where people were really, where your beauty for others, they could really see it. Even though we know it's there all along, but that's amazing, and that's what kind of helped keep you going, is part of it, just knowing that you could sing. And did you sing primarily like church songs, or did you just sing even?
No. Yeah, I had to sing church songs. The house I grew up in, my mother was very clear. I mean, I got in trouble if she caught me singing commercials or
Oh, wow.
songs that the programs that come on, they have theme songs and stuff. I got in trouble. That was all the devil's music, according to my mother. You know, if it wasn't gospel, it's the devil's music. So yeah, I grew up singing in church and mostly gospel, which is why I can sing secular music. And, you know, I was in an R&B band for a while and everything, but I always come home to gospel. I always come home to gospel.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It's also very uplifting.
Oh yeah.
I once heard like gospel music or spiritual music, any of that is like vertical. We grow from it. And all the other music, you know, if you want to listen to it, fine, but it's horizontal, right? We don't really grow from it. So it's kind of, that's what I hear when I hear of like gospel music, because messaging in there, right? I mean, I guess with horizontal music, there's messages too, but I don't know. Gospel music is very uplifting and touches our heart and soul for sure. So what advice, we kind of shared on this a little bit, but kind of on what helped you just keep that little flicker of light in there was the kindness of other people. But what advice would you give right now to your teenage self?
I guess the biggest thing that I would tell my teenager self would be to look past the messenger to receive the message.
Ooh.
And what I mean by that is that a lot of people talk to me about how important getting a good education was. But because some of them didn't have good education themselves, I didn't get it. And as much as I hated school, I hated being there. I was getting picked on, you know, all the time, bullied or whatever in school. So I spent as much time out of it and away from it as I could. And then I didn't continue. But now I'm looking back on, if I had looked past the messenger to receive the message of education at the time, I think things would be different.
That's very profound. Very profound. And I think especially for teenagers too, what comes to my mind is parents and teens, right? It's like parents have these great wisdom, has this great wisdom, and we impart it, of course, to our kids or or teenagers. And oftentimes it's met with resistance. If for nothing else, it's because it's coming from the parent. Exactly. They can hear it from a teacher, their football coach, whatever, they can receive it, but because it comes from the parent. So I really like that advice, like look past the messenger, like even look past, that it's your mom saying it or your dad saying it, and just listen to what the message is. You can still disagree with it if you want, but at least just listen, hear it. Right. So I love that. That's beautiful. I'm gonna use that. I'll give you credit, but that's a very good, that's a quotable, Kari. That's beautiful. So, okay. And then what is your source of joy? I think I know a little bit of that, but share with our listeners what your source of joy is.
Okay, it's going to be really funny, but in spite of the fact that I had my own horrible childhood, I did not have children of my own, but I did marry a man who had kids of his own. And now I have 3 beautiful granddaughters.
Aww.
And oh my goodness, they are the source of my joy. They are also the thing that keeps me going when I want to give up, because they are like the next generation. We had one just turned 10. One is 12 and the little one is 5, and they're all girls, and I could just sit there and just watch them and listen to them. And they fascinate me, actually. They fascinate me because I didn't have kids of my own. So when they got here, the baby was only 6 weeks old. She's 5 now. But when she got here, I had no clue what to do with the baby, and I could not stand to hear her cry at all. And so I spoiled her rotten, and I'm paying for that today. The middle child was 4 when they got here, and she made a beeline for my shoe rack. And so we bonded over shoes. And people that know me know I have a shoe thing. Me and Imelda, we have, we have a thing. And the oldest one and I, our common denominator is both of us are tender-headed. Now, I have sister locks now, so I don't have to deal with the comb. But she, oh Lord, I used to cringe when I saw her mom getting ready to do her hair. Because I remember those days. Oh my gosh, I remember.
Yeah.
So yeah, and just having them here, they live with us, so it's a constant, source of joy to just have children in my life, because I was convinced that I would never have that. So, there's the joke now that says, if I had known how wonderful grandchildren were, I would have had them first. Well, I got to cheat and I had grandchildren without having children. So it's been
Oh,
wonderful.
yeah. What a blessing though. I didn't realize that they lived with you. I just know whenever I have spoken with you, you're always, I mean, like even this last phone call, you were giggling over something cute that one of your grandbabies did. And I know with other times we've talked, just you do, you're always lit up and having fun with them.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So that's really cute. And I'm sure with their playful, and the childlike spirit, but you have that childlike, you're not childish, but that childlike, you're playful and fun. And I
Mhm.
can see that that's part of the light that radiates from you. Um, Even though you've been in some obviously very, very dark places. I mean, even looking at you right now, it's such an inspiration. I mean, you just glow. I mean, I feel like there's, just beams because that's just your energy and your love. It just seems to radiate so naturally from you. And I mean that sincerely. It just feels
Thank
good
you.
to be in your presence. Yeah. So given your experiences and yes, you do perform and you speak and you're writing, and all of that is to, you know, um, be an inspiration and a support and to share your story, and help others that may be going through the same thing. And so your mission and vision is really about, um, y- you know, spreading awareness, right? And child abuse, sexual abuse prevention. So if our listeners, it is just such a tough, and it seems such like a big topic, but you got to begin somewhere. And I think that's also one of your messages about just taking action, right? Like,
Exactly.
mhm.
Yes. Um, because I I I'm just I think I'm bothered by when people know that a child is in harm's way and they don't take action. That bothers me. So I I want people to be moved to take action. And so like I said, having a support person or a support group or somebody around you to help you as you take that action is
Mm,
important. So like if you have a trusted um, resource to reach out to so that that child can be protected.
mhm.
And if you find that you need support yourself, find that trusted resource. I mean, I'm willing to be on your other line as you call CPS, or, talk to the family members that you need to support you around getting your child safe. I mean, that's that's what I'm capable of. That's what I'm able to do. Um,
Yeah. And that's a huge, huge step, because I'm even thinking like when you were talking about like the family member, and everybody loves, that uncle, and no,
you're
he
exactly.
wouldn't do anything. He wouldn't inappropriately touch anyone, or speak so negatively, such hurtful words. No. And so, that child is being basically the message that their reality isn't real. And, the uncle is just this great guy. And if you're the parent, against really all the family members, right? Because you almost have to be to really listen to your child and keep your child safe. Just even reaching out to someone like you to say, I don't know what to do in this, because I feel like I'm, you know, um, everybody's angry with me in the family because I'm making, and maybe they're right. Maybe Uncle Joe isn't this person. Maybe, what they can talk to you, and you can at least, hear them, and perhaps together sort something through, and or you can also give them some resources where they can go, to get to take that next step, if they're ready to keep their child safe, right? I mean, we need support, especially if
Yes.
the whole family is kind of not giving us support, right? We need that
Mhm,
initial
mhm.
support, because the action steps that are going to be involved, they can be tough. They can be tough
Right.
to take. So,
That's right.
how can they get in touch with you if they want to, um, learn more? Have you, even do kind of a virtual speak, or even perform, but um, within their community, which would be awesome to bring more awareness to this issue. But also, if they want to um, need support, or just want to talk to you, have questions, how can they get a hold of you?
The best and easiest way right now is through email. And, let's start with email.
Okay.
Email Kari Kelley, K2 at yahoo.com. KariKelley, the letter K, the number 2, at yahoo.com.
Okay.
That way, um, we can connect, we can talk, and or connect, and we can find out what's needed and how I can help.
Awesome. Awesome. And I will also have that email address in the show notes. So anybody that missed it but wants to reach out to Kelly, I mean to Kelly, to Kari Kelley K2, you'll be able to, it'll be in the show notes as well. So,
All right.
but anyway, any last words or anything you'd like to say before we conclude the show?
Well, I would just like to say thank you for having me on, and thank you for any and everyone that will hear my story and be moved to protect a child. And you have my support for that. I am all for that, protecting the children.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
Oh, awesome. And that is so true. And just focus on keeping your child safe, your teen safe. And if you don't, it's scary, it's chaotic, it's confusing. One first step you can take is contact Kari. Or also, there are local resources you can look up for child abuse, or, um, as you said, you even mentioned maybe some local support groups, but reach out to someone. That's the first step,
That's
just
it.
someone. So you're not isolated,
Mhm.
and you're going to be heard. That is the first step in protecting your child, because the more we stay quiet and fearful and we don't reach out, then the longer abuse will probably go on, right? Um, and if our children or teens are, showing some of the signs or speaking up even, or saying that they feel weird, we really pay attention to that, because so often as parents, we kind of, it's hard to discern what, between sometimes drama or just trying to get attention or manipulate us versus what's being real. But when it comes down to something so serious as this, always take it as real and reach out. And then, by reaching out, not only will hopefully you be supported as the parent, but also um, you'll be given resources and everything on what next action steps, as well as how to support your child. And because chances are it is happening if your teen or child is bringing it up, right? And it's scary for them to even bring it up to a parent. So even more really needs to be taken seriously. So, well, thank you so much for all what you're doing. I mean, this is just so needed, and the more awareness, the greater we can change things. And you're also hopefully going to be a community partner with Santa Clara, right? Like trying to.
Yeah, Santa Clara County has these resources where they want to hear from people that have experienced foster care or have dealt with childhood abuse and everything. So I will be participating in that uh, later this month. I don't have all the information about it just yet, but as it comes out, I will share.
That's exciting. But again, because you've been through it, you really do understand it. And you're just so genuine and easy to approach. So, again, don't hesitate to contact Kari. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us and to share your story. My goodness, first of all, because talk about being authentic and transparent and vulnerable and but and also inspirational. um I mean, you're just amazing. Like
Thank
when
you.
I say remarkable, I really mean remarkable.
Thank you.
So again, you're that spark for us, so I want to thank you. And this concludes our show here to Unstoppable Teens, Unstoppable Dreams.